Chapter 4, Mold Structural Assembly. In our previous 3 chapters, we've worked with one of our tutorial project files. We do need to make a change for Chapter 4 to Mold Structural Assembly, and you're going to be able to find this at C Program Files, Autodesk, Inventor 2010, Tutorial Files, Mold, and Mold Structural Assembly. With this project selected, we can go ahead and start with our first part. We're simply going to open a part called Mold Top. With our Mold Top file open, we now will continue to adding inserts. First selection is Core and Cavity. This will bring up our Create Insert tool. I can find my Create Insert tool under my Insert tab. Here we're going to define the template we want to use for our inserts themselves. We're going to leave it rectangular and placement will be linear. We're going to select our front face here for our plane, reference 1 the top edge, reference 2 the outside edge, and make changes as necessary. Once we've made all of our necessary adjustments to our dimensional information, we'll go ahead and select OK. With our first insert placed into the file, we're going to go ahead and add our second insert for the other side. We're going to follow much the same process. We're going to create that insert, we're going to choose our profile being a template, leave it linear, our front plane, our reference 1 being the top line, our reference 2 the outer, and again we'll make the necessary adjustments. Again, simply select OK. With this insert now created, we can save our assembly, and next we'll add the heels to our slider inserts. With our inserts now created in the file and our assembly saved, we can go through and add our heel in. We'll find our Add Heel command in the same area we found our Create Insert. Once we have this selected, we want to use a template, make sure it's rectangle, and we need to look at our insertion. So I'm going to insert on this first insert. I'm going to select the face of the insert and the coordinating reference lines as needed. The overall width of our heel will be 8 millimeters. 2 millimeters from our reference 2, 3 millimeters from reference 1, and an overall height of our heel of 6 millimeters. With those dimensions selected, we can now enter a distance for our heel, in this case 15 millimeters. Once we have this accomplished, we'll simply hit Apply. With our heel created and our command still active, we're going to add a heel to our second insert. Again, follow the same process. With all my selections created, I'll simply hit OK. With our second heel created, we can go ahead and save our assembly. Start placing some inserts. Again, we're going to ensure that we're in our Core and Cavity tab, and we're going to be able to come to our Insert dialog box and select Place Insert. In this case, we want to take insert M3128, just an IPT file. And we can go ahead and place this into our design environment. A couple things we want to do is maybe change some of the visibility that we have inside of our design right now to make it a little bit easier when adding constraints to our insert. With my visibility corrected, I can go through now and start constraining my insert. We're going to use 3 make constraints to concern our insert to our design. One on this interface, connected to our face on our insert, making sure our offset value is at 0. Our second location can be on the front face of this insert, connected to the inside face of our part. Again, offset of 0. Our third reference point should be at the top portion of this component. So I'm just going to quickly move this out here, add my constraint into this top face, and rotate into the face of my design. And again, offset of 0. So with our insert fully constrained, we can return out of our assembly environment. Once we've returned out of this environment, we can finish our core and cavity. Ensure when we finish our core and cavity environment to save our assembly. Our insert's in place and our file saved, we can now remove the insert volume from the core. In this case, we'll need to go to our Mold Assembly tab and select our Mold Boolean option. First, we need to select our cutting tool. In this case, I'm going to go through and change my view representation and select my cutting tool, one of the inserts I placed. I'll simply switch back and select my mold base as my body. Simply hit OK to remove that information. With the first Boolean operation completed, we'll go ahead and do our second one for our second insert. Again, select that as our cutting tool. I'll simply switch back. This object is my body, and select OK. With our volume insert removed from our core, we're now going to go through and select a mold base to put into our design. With our mold base user interface up, we can go through and select our vendor type. In this case, I'm going to choose DME. I'll make my selection from the window and now give the mold base its overall size. With my vendor and type selected, I can now choose the size of my mold base. With that selection created, I can now go through and select a reference point for my mold itself. I'm also going to go through and make one more change from my component list. Simply hit OK, and our mold base will be placed into our design. With our mold base now incorporated into our design, we're now going to add a slider into our full assembly. In this case, we'll just choose our slider functionality from our Mold Assembly tab, and we need to select first our front surface to place the slider for orientation and pull direction. We can modify our pull direction at any given time. Now we need to select the base plane for our first reference. So we need to select the base point, which will be the midpoint on the surface line. And also, we need to select the pin plane. With our pin plane now selected, we can move on and look at placing some of our core options. On our slider dialog box, we're going to select Side Core. With this selected, we're going to go through and select one of the insert points for our sliders that we installed onto our molded part. We only need to select one side of this since they're evenly spaced. From our component list, we're going to make a slight change to our angle pin and give that a generic property of 85 millimeters. We're also going to make a few adjustments to our slider. Make this a simple 50. And our B2 in our slider, make this 59. We're going to make some changes to our both guide strips. And I'll make the same change to my second guide strip. And last but not least, our locking heel. With those changes made, we'll simply hit OK for these changes to be placed into our design and save our assembly when finished. Now with our slider completely placed into our design, we can take a quick look at it. So now we're ready to start placing our lifters into our designs.